Hello, this is Simple Life Philosophy, and I'm your host, Ed Raby. This is a channel where we look at the journey on discovering a simple philosophy of life that is both easy to understand and hopefully easy to execute as well. A lot of times we talk about Stoicism, Essentialism, Minimalism, pagan philosophy, any bits and pieces of wisdom that we can glean from others, from either ancient writers or modern writers or whatever, in order to make our life a little bit simpler and a little bit more focused. Today I'm kind of doing a check-in with myself. Part of this channel is a little bit of a vlog where I kind of do these little posts for my own personal reasons, but you're more than welcome to kind of share in some of my struggles and triumphs if that inspires you. So that's kind of where I'm headed. Today I'm kind of going to share something I haven't really shared with anybody except a few of my closest family members, but really it boils down to kind of a small personal struggle that has led to me creating this idea of a simple life philosophy and trying to find it. Because I've come to the painful conclusion that some of us, and myself included, do not like the very fast-paced society, the very complicated, whatever the hell it is out there that keeps trying to pull us down it. And I came to this realization due to a couple of personal crises that are still fairly recent. About I don't know, 5 months ago, I was teaching in Texas. When I look at the calendar and I realize how short a time it's been since I've basically picked up stakes in Texas in mid-January and moved back home, stayed with my son for a week or two, I can't remember, and then moved into this apartment, got a new job, the whole bit. Along that line, it's been a very quick timeline. It's very fast. And what necessitated some of that move was a lot of my own concerns with my family back home, my mother in particular, but also I feel like as a protective kind of father figure, I kind of like to watch over my kids still, and they can dislike me for that, I guess, but I am going to be who I am. But also I had some personal issues that came very much to a head in Texas. And with me and my therapist recently discussing the possibility that I'm autistic. I still haven't had an official diagnosis, but everything I read about it, everything I think about, the various things, like I am very hypersensitive to light, I'm very hypersensitive to noise, I don't like it loud, things like that. It doesn't like bother me to the point where I like want to scream or anything, but it's like I prefer things to be a little bit darker so they don't hurt my eyes, and I prefer things not to be so loud. Some of the ways I interact, my introversion, just as I went through the list of all the things that autistic people have, regular nervous habits. I'm doing one right now, which is I rub my thighs and things like that when I talk to people when I'm sitting down. So there's a lot of things that I do avoid eye contact, but that's not a main thing. There can be cultural reasons for avoiding eye contact, but in the United States we don't have a cultural reason, so it is a pretty good indicator. But I do avoid eye contact, and sometimes I don't respond, or various things just happen. And I think a lot of times I just come off as rude, but it's not really rudeness, it's just my nervous system just isn't registering some of the stuff that happens. So it's like that's kind of where I'm at. Now, one of the things that kind of brought this to a head and why I had to come home and then begin to discuss this with my therapist was I was in school teaching one day, and this was December of last year, and I was walking along. I had just given the kids a lesson. I was working on something, and I nearly blacked out. I caught myself, re-steadied myself, a couple of my kids that were close by got really concerned. I began to talk to some people via email that I knew. contacted a few others. When I came home from Christmas, there was a lot of things that continued to worry me. I was incredibly homesick. I really hated living in the city, probably because of my hypersensitivity to noise, because I had a real hard time sleeping in the city because any little noise would wake me up, and it got really bad at times. There were some times I was going into work and I'd had like 3 hours of sleep, 2 hours of sleep, things like that, and it's mostly because the rush, the crowds, all that stuff, as much as I intellectually could say it's okay, my nervous system, I think, was just basically, and this is my theory, my nervous system was just saying, enough's enough. Okay, so that kind of led me to a concern. Well, I said, well, I'll just tough it out for the rest of the semester, finish up the school year, maybe transfer back to Michigan, alleviate some of my fears. But the problem was, I got into the beginning of the next semester and it happened again. This time I kind of scared the willies out of one of my students. And so it was like, and I had another incident where I was walking down the hall and all of a sudden I just couldn't walk straight. So it was like, okay, I'm trying to go straight ahead, but I'm veering off to the left. And it was these physiological reactions that kind of made me think there was something wrong with me. But, you know, it's funny, it hasn't happened since I moved home. And the more I think about it, it's like, yeah, I think that was psychosomatic. Your nervous system, if you are autistic, maybe my nervous system, and this is purely theory on my part, just did not like all the stimuli that I was giving it. It was just not reacting well. And so I came back home. I have trouble opening up all my feelings, but by coming back home, I wasn't greeted by everybody with open arms, and that kind of hurt a little bit. I was facing a crisis, and I was trying to get people across, but it did hurt a little bit. I was accused of a couple things that I didn't really care for, which weren't true. But I, got back here, got a job. I think I was unemployed for like 4 days, and then I was back working at the world's largest brick and mortar, north of here a little ways. And then I moved on, found an apartment. It's fairly affordable. I mean, I'm still looking at some very tight finances right now, so I kind of just, that's a stressor. But a lot of the other stressors went away. I now live in my hometown, which is much more quiet than Houston, a lot less busy, which actually calmed me down quite a bit. I'm closer to home, so a lot of my worries about my family are alleviated because I try to visit them once a week, make sure they're okay. And that de-stresses me when I think that they're okay, particularly my mom. So it's all of that kind of led me to, well, Ed, what are you going to do now? And Simple Life Philosophy has kind of been a process. I originally started, this with Simply Raby, but the whole idea of simplifying and making things simple was on my mind all the time from the time I left Texas, that I have to find a way to make my life simpler and easier and more focused and not so stressful, and yet still be productive, still take care of myself, still follow after the virtues I like to follow after. And I began to kind of read about Stoicism. I was dealing with Essentialism as well before that, and working on a few other things, kind of reviewing my minimalist habits. When I left Texas, I got rid of a lot of stuff. I realized I was buying a lot of stuff simply because it gave me something to do, and it's just not a good way to live. Now I'm like, okay, does it have a purpose? Does it really do anything? And so my whole apartment, I look around every day and I say, is there something in here that I don't use or don't enjoy anymore? And so far, so good. So far, so good. But the idea of a simplified philosophy that works for most people just came born out of that. I want to kind of know that there was a personal crisis behind the origin of this channel. I didn't want to become the rabid atheist again because I'm not interested anymore in that conflict between atheists and everybody else who believes. I am an atheist, still remain one, but I'm not going to sit here. My issue is not to fight. I don't want to create battles. I want to create bridges. And I think by focusing on certain philosophical systems like Stoicism, for instance, as I've remarked several times now in several other videos, there's a bridge here. You can be a Christian Stoic, you can be an Islamic Stoic, you can be a Hindu Stoic, okay? You can be an atheist Stoic or an agnostic Stoic or a deist Stoic. You can really have the whole gambit. The philosophy still remains the same. And I think that's why I kind of chose the direction I did. I want a simple philosophy of life that helps me focus, helps me move forward and be a little bit more, objective and very real about my objectives. I think one of the things that Stoicism has done for me most assuredly at this point is, hey Ed, you got to tone down your dreams. Why do you want, the career? Why do you want all this stuff? Well, I had to come to the conclusion I just wanted to be respected again. And after reading some Stoicism, I said, well, why do I care about being respected? Why don't I just worry about being a good person? And I can't control other people's respect levels, so I might as well, just focus on being a good person and developing character and moving forward. And so Simple Life Philosophy was kind of born out of that desire. Do I have a lot of struggles and things ahead of me? Yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely, here's a little feelings for you, which is rare for me. I'm absolutely scared to death of, what this, what it means for me, because it explains so many things. The autism, it explains so many parts of my life. And this whole theory I have about, my nervous system shutting down just explains, like most of the time I'm a really normal, average guy, but I have these crisis points in my history. And it's at those moments when I realize, man, I'm under a great deal of stress. I remember after my dad died, my whole nervous system just shut down because the emotions of grief were just so strong. And for like a year, I was in a depressive state. And it makes me wonder, how many other things, had I known about this earlier, I could have maybe dealt with a lot better. So, but I'm scared to death of kind of, having to deal with it. But at the same time, I'm kind of moving forward with it, and I think it's going to be helpful in the end, along with my philosophy. So I just want to kind of update you where my own personal struggles are, because mostly for my own benefit, because I want to be able to look back at these personal videos and say, hey man, I've made a lot of progress. And that's the issue of Simple Life Philosophy, just to be better today than you were yesterday, to be more focused today than you were yesterday, and finding that simplicity in life and living the way we live life so that we aren't so stressed, but we still get stuff done that we need to get done. And that's kind of where I'm headed. Well, I want to thank you for stopping by. This has been a little bit of me opening up personally on some issues. I want to thank you all for stopping by, for liking, sharing, subscribing. For all you new subscribers, thank you very much. The subscribers is going to what makes this channel work. You got to get that 1,000 subscribers, that 4,000 watch hours, and once you get that, you can start saying, hey YouTube, put ads on my stuff and make me some money. And I know some of you don't like the prospect of ads, but it helps, you and then memberships and getting our community board up and running, things like that. The more subscribers, the more things open up to me and to you. So, keep sharing these videos. I really appreciate it. But that's all from me. This has been Simple Life Philosophy. I've been your host, Ed Raby, and I just wish you a great day and enjoy the rest of it.